365 with Jacque Howard. Profiling the businesses, organizations, and people that make Trenton better.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Trenton 365 show. I'm your host, Jacque Howard. You can find more information about the program by visiting our Facebook page, Trenton 365 Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Trenton 365 and the website, Trenton365.com. If you're watching, it's over WPHY, Channel 25, covering Mercer County, New Jersey. And you're listening live over WIMG 1300 on the AM dial, New Jersey's oldest radio station and Stellar Award-winning station as well. Website and Twitter, WIMG 1300. In the studio with me is Tina LeMar, who is from Sheltered Yoga. And I'm going to emphasize sheltered because prepping for this, I was calling it something else, but Sheltered Yoga, and the website is shelteredyoga.com. And we're going to get into a bunch of different things, talking about yoga, talking about Tina, and in general about how yoga for life, yoga for charity, and a wonderful event that Tina has coming up as well. So join me as I welcome Tina LeMar to the Trenton 365 show.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here.
Awesome. And
a little nerve-wracking, but so nice.
Well, folks, you'll notice right away that Tina is a yogini. So she's got that cool, smooth, relaxed sound in her voice, etc. And that is just who she is. So, Tina, why don't you get right into talking about who you are as a person and why you're in this region?
Okay. I have been teaching yoga or practicing yoga since '93. And I had a for-profit yoga and wellness business for 20 years around there. And it did very well. It was right when the wave hit of yoga, or a little right before the wave hit of yoga. But the last 10 years that I was in my for-profit, which was mostly, I had a kind of a niche market because it was private yoga in people's homes, but it was also corporate yoga. And with the market kind of changing, and also just my idea of what yoga should be and how inclusive it should be, the last 10 plus years I've been kind of like going around doing research, also going to a lot of different locations where maybe in those locations they would never actually have a chance to have yoga. And meditation, mindfulness studies. So I learned a lot over the course of these last 10 plus years, and really it changed my whole way of thinking about how to approach yoga, and that's how Sheltered Yoga was born, which was, we're a young nonprofit, so it's 2014 we started. But we've been very busy. Thank goodness, it's lovely. And I think in a good way and a bad way we've been very busy because Sheltered Yoga actually works in all I hate this term, but like disadvantaged or at-risk communities. It's like really we work in alternative schools in and around Trenton area. We work in residential or transitional housing units. We work in shelters. We work in emergency shelters. We work in foster care homes or placement homes. And we do most of our work in and around Trenton and Mercer County. And we do also work in Camden and Philly.
Mm-hmm. So let's do this. And I agree with you. About using the term disadvantaged or alternative because it kind of it gives this stigma. Immediately, I think most people, when they hear that, the first thing they think is poverty, people of color, whether that's Latino, Hispanic, or African American, or something of that nature. So let's try before the end of the show, come up with another term that we can use, and then we'll start tonight of trying to change people's perceptions and their terminology so we can come up with something a little bit better there. So we're going to try to eliminate using disadvantaged or alternative as a verb to describe a segment of people, of human beings in a population. So I still want to go back a little bit further. I mean, you said that you started in '93 with yoga. What made you become interested in yoga? And I want to drill down on that a bit, because approximately around that time is when the holistic wave really hit the East Coast of the country. I went and got nationally certified as a massage therapist, and similarly used that as an opportunity to do a lot of outreach through the church where I was working or where I was worshiping, and also doing a lot of sports massage related work as well. So we're right around that same time frame of this whole holistic approach to better health. So in 1993, what led you to get involved in yoga?
That's a good question. It's actually how I started yoga is a bit selfish, because I had a lot of stuff going on, mentally and physically. So the physical side of it was that I actively have scoliosis. I have had it for most of my life. It's curvature of the spine. I have 2 areas with bad curves in my neck and my lower back. So I played a lot of sports growing up, and as you play more sports, and especially they didn't have all of these kind of like sensitivities of concussions and everything else. They just let you play. You could have shin splints, you couldn't barely walk, and you were out running. And so my lower back it just became really weak. I was visiting with my brother in Indiana at the time. I was flying home. The bing went off on the plane. I stood up from the aisle seat, and this was way back in my like mid-20s, early 20s, when you could have big, heavy luggage and bring it on the plane, and nobody cared. And this woman pulled her luggage out, and she never put her hand under the heavy end of the luggage, and at the same time that I was standing, the luggage hit the top of my head, and I just went straight down. I didn't feel it in my head. I felt it in my lower back, because, you know, when you're stressed or you have trauma, it will go to the weakest spot in your body. And so physically, that was my lower back at the time. I got stretchered out of the plane. I couldn't walk. I couldn't hold myself up. They put me in a wheelchair. My neighbor came and picked me up. And for 4 months, really, I was sort of just on hands and knees climbing around my apartment. And I rehabbed myself only with yoga and breathing and also Advil. But it was all of the yoga stretches, and it was almost like really slow range of motion stretching, just kind of feeling, you know, how my body was going, and then it opened up from there, and it took a while. It took almost 6 months for me to be able to actually feel better and feel able to walk. And I thought I would never run again. I thought I would never play sports again. Now I run half marathons and marathons. On the other side of it, the mental side, from a young, I think grammar school it started, and then definitely through middle school, I suffered from, which I think a lot of people do, anxiety that turned into panic attacks, which if anyone has had those, you know, it feels like you're having a heart attack and you have no control over your body. And then it moved on to, I think it's like 0.8% of people, or 0.08 or something percent of people that have panic attacks and anxiety get agoraphobia, which that's pretty much my personality. Like if I go into something, I go full on. So of course I got every symptom. And so agoraphobia is like you feel like you don't want to leave the house. You can't be in a car with a lot of people. You have to be driving. You can't be in a line at like the supermarket. You get stressed out about being in line. There's a lot. Like I would never have been able to do this interview. And it was only because I tried everything. I did everything. I changed my diet. I exercised. I did everything. yoga was the only thing that worked. Yoga, really, this was more of a meditation and breathing. That was the thing that ultimately was a big change in my life. And so when people ask me, why did I start yoga, I usually say to them, it saved my life. I was no longer a victim of my pain and of my brain, like my mind telling me things that I didn't want to hear.
Now, were you introduced to yoga by someone else, or was this something that you researched on your own?
Yeah, actually, a good friend of mine, who we've been best friends since kindergarten, my friend Miriam, who is now in Japan, living. Hi, Miriam. She had gone to India, and she studied for a little bit yoga, and she was like, this is amazing. She came home, and she taught me just little things, little asanas or postures here and there. And it just so happens at the same time there was a yoga studio around the corner from where I was living. So I started going once a week, then twice a week, 3 times a week. I became a yoga instructor after like a year and a half, 2 years or something, and then it's history from that point on.
Now, talk about the certification process. I know with massage therapy, the program I went to was approximately, I think it was 700 hours or 1,000 hours, something like that. Pretty intensive with a lot of anatomy and physiology courses and pathology, etc. What's the certification process like for yoga, or at least at the time? What was it like? And if you want to give a plug for the institution that trained you.
Yeah, actually, it was and still is a 200-hour certification. There are a lot, now things have changed, and there are a lot of different yoga training out there. They're a bit scary, like a weekend yoga training to be certified. So there's a lot, like people should look and see what really, and they should, if they want to be certified, they should look for Yoga Alliance certification, so yogaalliance.com. And then they know that school or that individual is registered, and they've, like, Sheltered Yoga is also a school. We can teach people to be yoga instructors. I can teach people the Sheltered Yoga curriculum, but also to be yoga instructors. And so I have to go through Yoga Alliance and create a whole curriculum, send it in, get approval. It was the same a while ago, but I think it was kind of a mix of people that had been doing yoga from 70s or earlier, and people that were just realizing that there was a certification. So there weren't so many people getting certified at the time. I was one of like no one that I knew. Now there's like a strip mall, there's a yoga studio. It's
exactly.
Like, it's unbelievable.
Very similar to massage therapy.
Yeah.
There's even national, regional chains, etc. Tina, can you share the contact information for Sheltered Yoga? Because I think I may have made an error at the beginning of the program.
Sheltered Yoga is shelteredyoga.org. Because we're a nonprofit, and so you can find us online. We're also on Facebook, which is Sheltered Yoga. We're on Twitter, and we're also on Instagram, and that's also all Sheltered Yoga. And in addition, I'm on LinkedIn, so Tina LeMar for LinkedIn. And you can find us in all those different places. I post all the time. I try to, at least. So
all right, that's
you
great.
Can keep up with us.
All right, great. So again, shelteredyoga.org. You can find Tina LeMar's nonprofit organization, shelteredyoga.org, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can find her personally on LinkedIn, TINALE_MAR. So Tina, you shared a bit about what got you into yoga, and you touched a bit on how it helped with the, I guess, I don't want to say illness, but the structural pain that you had. Can you just drill down on that a little bit and talk about that experience, the unwinding of that, and how it's progressed to where you are now?
The mental side of it, or
sure,
physical side
mental,
of it?
physical, whatever works for you.
Well, the physical side's a bit easier, and then I can go into the mental. The physical was just literally kind of just slowly working myself back through easier postures that were more sensitive and nurturing to the body, and then opening up to postures that were giving much bigger and larger stretches and allowing for the body to kind of open and decompress. And so that worked really well, and obviously, right, so I feel great. But mentally, it was about really, you know, it's interesting that you asked this, because all of the years I was suffering with anxiety and panic attacks and everything, I always thought I was trying to always connect it to an illness or something wrong with my body, something going wrong, and I don't know what it is, and I need to find out what it is. But really it was self-esteem. It was self-worth. It was my confidence. And when that changed through meditation and breathing, everything changed. You know, I was bullied bullying is a different language and a whole different look now, I think, than it was. But because we didn't have social media back then. Thank goodness. But I was bullied, and so because of it, I really had a very hard time feeling good enough. Feeling confident enough. I was always second-guessing myself. I was always, letting other people kind of, take over my decision-making sometimes. And when I started doing meditation regularly and also really learning to breathe differently, it changed my mind became, it's very hard to explain, but you get a strong clarity of decision making. You get a feeling of confidence that's like structure behind that decision making that makes you really feel like you're making the right decision and you should go with it. And it's freedom. It's unbelievable, and you feel like you're doing the right thing. You're for yourself, for your family, for your community. It's a big connectedness in the way that you're making decisions. And actually, if you read about yoga and history and how it changes people, there's a lot of conversation that there's this hypersensitivity. I remember talking about it in class and my students going like, "Oh, that sounds terrible," but. But really, it's that you become very aware of how you're feeling, and then you start creating boundaries that weren't there before. Mm-hmm. And then you're able to, after you've kind of nurtured and helped yourself, you're able then to have enough energy and mind space to help others and help them, find their voice and find their confidence. And that's the underlying thing that I, a concept and that I put in my curriculum for sheltered yoga. It's really important.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you mentioned your curriculum, which we'll get into in a little bit. I'm speaking with Tina LeMar, who is the founder and creator of Sheltered Yoga. Website is shelteredyoga.com. .org, shelteredyoga.org. You can also find her on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well, shelteredyoga.org. It's interesting that how you put it about the self-knowledge. Immediately tying into what you had said about your experience when you were on a plane and getting hit in the head and then that triggering the health issue that you had. But when you jump onto a plane, when you come onto a plane, it says that if the mask comes down, the oxygen mask comes down, that you are supposed to put that mask on yourself first. Then you can go and help anyone else. And I've always thought about that, and I talk to my neighbors and friends when we're around huddling over food and so forth, about the mentality with that. And it's interesting that if we look inward and we get that peace and that understanding of who we are as an individual, it's a lot easier for us to share our experience. And then we're also coming from a position of, I don't want to say authority, but you're at least coming from a position of experience. So that in itself triggers that whole process of someone saying, oh my goodness, Tina knows what she's talking about because she's gone through these steps. And that, again, is almost like reaffirming. And big picture, I like to say, well, as we build a better community, us coming together and sharing that experience with as many people as possible, now we're empowering not just our inner circle of people and close people, but also a larger entity, meaning the community, the city, the county, the state, etc. And that's how we can get to this place of true enlightenment, especially from a spiritual perspective. And something as simplistic as breathing, and breathing with correct posture. And you spoke of your senses being heightened or enlightened just from simply breathing. And how many of us don't go through that process of, hey, what am I actually doing? Am I just panting, or am I feeling my lungs fill up and the different pockets of my body, et cetera, expand? So I really want to hear more about that. And we're not going to be able to get into it tonight. But I do want to drill down at some point in time with you and talk about your curriculum, because what you're already doing, not only with your current circle and network, we've been brainstorming about some other things, doing some more outreach and opening up opportunities for some people who don't know what yoga is or have this mysticism idea about what yoga is. Before we go to a break, can you just talk about, demystify what yoga is for some of the people in the listening and viewing audience who may be of a certain age or of a certain background, who immediately think it's something else just because they don't know?
I have actually a really great story about that. So there's one location in Trenton where Sheltered Yoga works, and we teach a chair yoga. And it's women that are like a little bit older, and the chair is a comfort level for them. And actually, they're amazing. They're so flexible. They're fantastic. But I noticed, so they are doing really well in the yoga. They're starting to stand up and hold on to the chair. They're starting to go on, stand on a mat and not hold the chair. So they're moving forward. But I noticed every time we meditated, especially like the first couple of months, and I explained what meditation is. I explained different types of meditation, gave them different options. But it would be that they would close their eyes, and then an eye would open, they'd look around, and they'd close their eyes, and then they'd start wiggling in their chair, and then they'd start looking at their phone. And finally, I got to a point and I said, hey, what's going on here? Like, what's happening? Why are we meditating? And they felt uncomfortable, but they didn't want to say anything. And it was maybe because they had heard things like, oh, it's, it's against religion, or it's whatever. And I said, no, first of all, in the Bible, God tells you, quiet your mind, right? So that you can have communication. So I said, let's work from there. And then okay. And I said, well, we can do the same exact thing. We can have a positive sentence, word, or phrase that I was telling them, but let's change it to a praise, maybe from church. And so they came up with the most fantastic, I love it. It's on the inhale, praises go up. On the exhale, we all know it, blessings come down. And so after we came to a middle ground where they felt comfortable, I was getting them to have a stronger meditation, stronger calm time. They are fantastic. Like every time they do meditation now, they're just in it, and they are upset when I stop the music and we're done. So it's really, it's all about what you want it to be. It could just be about focusing on your breathing and counting your breath. It could be about, I like to do with kids a positive word or phrase or sentence. And so if it's like 4 words in a sentence, first do like I am on the inhale, really awesome, or really smart, really capable, whatever. And so they inhale and exhale that sentence. And it's about neuroplasticity. You're changing a pathway. You're creating a new pathway. In the beginning, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel like, I don't really feel that way about myself. But this is what I did. Eventually, you're going to plow a path, and then it's going to be much easier to say those nice things to yourself. So that's how I teach when we're trying to build self-esteem, self-worth, confidence.
Mm-hmm. And I like that. So when we inhale, praises go up. And when we exhale, blessings come down.
Yeah.
And kudos to you for being open to going outside of what your idea or your structure was, which I also think is a problem that we have culturally, is that we want to put each other into these boxes. An initiative that I have is for us to stop saying different races. We are all of the human race. We have a different skin color, a skin tone, an amount of melanin in our bodies and our skin. That's it. We are not a different race of people and multiracial and biracial. No, we're not. We're all of the human race. And I find that when I even mention that to people, a lot of people pull back because we've been taught and said, no, this is what we are. We are different. No, we're not. Mm-hmm. And even with something as simple as an exercise, if you didn't want to call it a meditation, you wanted to call it an exercise, a breathing exercise to relax your body, not center your body. Mm-hmm. Your mind is where it is. And if your spirit is in contact with your faith, that goes back to that homeostasis of you being connected in your inner self and that calming within yourself. Now you can go out and, again, like we were saying, now you can go out and you can share that with others and you can be that positive experience for others. I know we've got a lot that I want to cover. I'd like for you to share the contact information one more time because, again, approximately 60 minutes is definitely not enough time to get everything in. And then I want you to give a little snippet about what's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah. It's the thing that's making me not sleep at night. Okay, so shelteredyoga.org. And you can also find us on all the popular social media sites of Sheltered Yoga. And I'm on LinkedIn, Tina LeMar, LEMAR. And we have a very exciting golf as scramble and spa event happening October 15th. That's it.
Why don't you give a little bit more?
Okay.
Just to give a little bit more, and I'll do a little lead in, folks. So this time of the year, usually September, October, and November, everyone's bombarded. Most of the nonprofits are doing their fundraising, preparing to finish up their books and get ready for the next season. It's normal. Lots of the organizations are doing that in this region, and actually nationally. So oftentimes there are very creative types of events that take place. Sometimes they're dinners and Monte Carlo parties and food tastings and wine tastings, all these different things. Usually in the spring is when you hear a lot about golf outings. So this particular event caught my eye, and so Tina, through Sheltered Yoga, is having a golf scramble, which is similar to a golf outing, but it's also involved with a spa day as well. Where is this going to take place?
It is at, oh my gosh. It's a golf course in South Philly. Oh, my husband's going to kill me. It's Ron Jaworski's Valley Brook Country Club. There, I got it. Sorry, Ron.
Jaws has got his mind on football right now, so he'll be okay.
I know. Well, the Eagles are doing well, so everyone can.
So Valley Brook Country Club.
Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, I think it is, New Jersey. It's in South Jersey. It's a Ron Jaworski course, which is fun. And it's really kind of a very different, I guess, event because it's going to be golf scramble, like the normal golf tournament that you have for charity. And then also simultaneously, if people don't golf, they can come and do the spa day there, which will be a yoga class, it will be massage, it will be getting hand massages, nail color change, relaxing, kind of like a little spa environment we're creating. So it'll be really nice.
Awesome. And we're just about up on a short break, so we'll get into that a little bit more after the break. You are listening and watching the Trenton 365 show. I'm your host, Jacque Howard. You can find more information about what I'm doing here in the community of Trenton, New Jersey, and beyond with music programs, supporting local organizations and businesses and nonprofits, and encouraging the community to be better so that we can develop and create a better community for everyone. I'm very inclusive. I know that scares a lot of people. If you'd like to have a conversation over some food, we can do that as well. I love eating and meeting people in different places, so we can always get together and chat over some food. You can send me an email, trenton365show@gmail.com. Literally less than a month ago, Tina and I met via social media and connected, shared some conversations, and then the next thing you know, she's on the program talking about a wonderful event and talking about her organization that's coming up. And you out in the community can get involved in this as well. Really simple. Send me an email, trenton365show@gmail.com. Website, trenton365.com. There you can find out more about what's happening, and we will be back after a very short break.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years. And